Hey, welcome back. The new updates on iPhone 17 have taken it to the next level, bringing it closer than ever to the Pro models, even if, of course, with a few compromises. And that's exactly why this year I chose the standard version, even though I was coming from the Pro model of the 16 series. This made me wonder if my choice was actually a smart one or not. So, if you're also thinking about switching from a 16 Pro to the 17, or if you're torn between these two models since the price right now is very similar, I want to show you the differences and share my experience making the switch. Let me say right away, in some ways, the iPhone 17 really impressed me, while in others it made me miss my old 16 Pro. On the very first day, right out of the box, I have to be honest, I didn't get that new phone feeling. The size is practically the same. Same dimensions, same display size, same buttons, even the camera control button. But looking closer, there are a few differences. First of all, the new color. That sandy gold shade gives it a more premium, very elegant look. But the first thing you notice right away is the missing camera compared to the Pro model. And there, I'll admit I felt a bit of regret, like I had downgraded my phone choice. But that feeling didn't last long, and you'll see why as we go through this video. There was actually one detail that made me realize this was exactly what I needed. The moment I held the iPhone 17, I immediately noticed how light it felt. I used the iPhone 16 Pro for a whole year, and trust me, the weight became a real frustration. Since I use my phone a lot for work, after hours and hours of use it felt uncomfortable, heavy, almost bulky. I had promised myself that the next time, I wanted a lighter iPhone, and finally, here it is. What really surprises me is that, even though it has the same dimensions and even the same thickness, the 17 is noticeably lighter. And in daily use, that makes a huge difference. It feels more practical, more comfortable, and much less tiring to use. And as I said before, the updates Apple brought to iPhone 17 are exactly what made it so competitive. One in particular is the display. I already made a more technical video about these updates, so if you want to dive deeper, I'll leave the link in the description. But here's the big news. Apple has brought promotion with 120 Hz refresh rate to the standard model. That means no more being stuck with the old 60 Hz limit. Now we're finally at the same level as the Pro. And you can tell the difference immediately. Stunning images, great HDR performance, and super smooth animations. Switching from the 16 Pro to the 17, honestly, I can't notice any difference at all. Scrolling, movement, responsiveness, they're identical. But here's an extra surprise. On paper, the iPhone 17 display is even better. Apple worked on improving durability against drops and scratches, and especially the anti-reflective coating. So in some ways, it's actually more solid than my old Pro screen. And not just that, under direct sunlight, it can now reach 3000 nits of brightness, compared to 2000 on the 16 Pro. To be honest, in my everyday use, I didn't notice a massive difference. I tested both in full sunlight, and yes, the 17 is a bit more visible, but nothing mind-blowing. Still, it's a clear step forward. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, with these upgrades, does the iPhone 17 keep up with the power of the Pro models? Or does it fall behind? That was one of my worries. I was afraid of ending up with a less responsive system, slower performance, something that couldn't keep up with the Pro. But that didn't happen. The new A19 chip honestly impressed me. In everyday use, I didn't notice any real difference compared to the 16 Pro. Using both extensively, they behave pretty much the same. Apps open instantly. Multitasking is handled really well, both with light and heavy apps. And since I'm a bit of a nerd, I also ran some benchmark tests. And here I was even more surprised. The iPhone 17 not only keeps up, but actually beats my old Pro in both CPU and GPU performance. So on paper, this processor isn't just similar, it's actually a bit more powerful than the 16 Pro. And like I mentioned at the beginning, the most obvious difference is in the cameras. The iPhone 16 Pro has an extra one, the dedicated optical zoom, which allows closer shots with better quality. The iPhone 17 stops at 2x zoom. Not only that, but the Pro models also have the LiDAR scanner, which helps with more accurate shots in some technical scenarios, something missing on the standard model. In everyday use, I did notice a slight difference. Photos and videos are still excellent on both, so don't worry. But if I had to be honest, I'd say the iPhone 17's camera sits just a little below the 16 Pro. Another thing to keep in mind is that moving to the 17 means losing some Pro exclusive features. Things like recording in log, shooting in RAW, or filming in 4K at 120 frames per second, which I personally loved. But I think those are mostly meaningful for professional use, while for most of us regular users, they're not really essential. On the bright side, there's one update that I really loved, the front camera. On the 17, you can take selfies and videos with a wider angle and better quality. And that actually makes a big difference in daily use. Whether you take selfies, group shots, or record videos for social media, this new front camera is something everyone can appreciate, pro or not. Okay, now let's talk about another key aspect, the battery. And here I have to say, the iPhone 17 really impressed me for two main reasons. The first is the new fast charging update. In just 20 minutes, you can get to 50% battery. I tested it myself, and I can confirm Apple's claim is true. I even did a direct charging comparison between my old 16 Pro and the 17. The iPhone 17 clearly wins, charging much faster. But the real difference is in battery life. The 17 lasts significantly longer. I don't know if that's thanks to the new battery or the processor optimization, but the difference is real. I remember the 16 Pro had decent battery life when I first bought it, but over time it dropped a lot. With the 17, I managed to get up to 8 hours of screen-on time with moderate use. With the 16 Pro, I often struggled to make it to the end of the day. It would drain pretty easily. Another thing many of you often ask me about is audio quality. Here, I'd say both do a really good job. In my opinion, the 16 Pro sounded slightly fuller, with more depth. The iPhone 17, on the other hand, focuses more on volume. It feels like it can push a bit louder. But I'll let you listen and judge for yourself before making a final call. Alright, so I've shown you what I think are the main features and differences between these two devices. Now I want to tell you whether I recommend making the switch. But before that, if you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. It helps me a lot and allows me to keep bringing you content like this. So, as we've seen, this year the standard model has reached a level very close to the Pros. In some aspects, like the display, processor, and battery, it has even matched them completely. Another big plus for me is that the iPhone 17 now starts at 256 GB of storage. That's so important nowadays with the number of apps, photos, and files we all use daily. With my 128 16 Pro, I was constantly running out of space. It was frustrating. Of course, something is still missing. The Pro cameras definitely give you more, and for me the biggest loss is the optical zoom, which was super useful when creating videos. That said, if you're not a professional, I'm convinced the iPhone 17's cameras will still give you amazing results, more than enough for everyday needs. So if today you're choosing between a 16 Pro and a 17, my advice would be to go for the 17. It offers more features, more storage, and better battery life. If, like me, you're thinking about moving from the 16 Pro to the 17, it can make sense to do it, especially for the improvements we've looked at together. And what about you? Which phone are you using right now? That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a free like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next tech updates. See you next time.